like any mythology, it answers what is the purpose of life. And the old mythology essentially said is to maximize reproductive self-interest.
Yeah.
Which is almost a non-answer. There is no purpose. It's just, behavior is the result of chemistry, deterministic chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
A new mythology, also a very ancient mythology,
Mm-hmm.
would answer the question differently and would say the purpose of life
Mm-hmm.
is to contribute to life and beauty, to make the world more beautiful, to participate in the unfolding of complexity, life and beauty in the cosmos. Wow. And when you orient toward that and then build institutions that affirm and reward that purpose, then these issues of honesty and trust take on a completely different color.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nothing short of that is going to create significant change.
And you think that RFK is the best person to help spearhead that? At least in today's world.
I think he's as much as the world is ready for right now. He has spent, the last 20 years very courageously defying one of the core tenets of our dominant medical religion,
Mm-hmm.
and so he sees through a lot of the deception, and he's also it's not theoretical for him. He's spent decades suing corporations, suing government agencies. He knows how they work. He knows how to change them. He knows where their dysfunction lies, and exactly who to promote, promote the whistleblowers, promote outside experts who don't have financial ties, there's a lot of nuts and bolts things that you can do to make these institutions more accountable to the public interest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what about at the educational level? So if I can understand the analogy you gave about UFOs and extraterrestrial and all these experiences, et cetera, that are now coming to light, and there are hearings in Congress over this, et cetera. But what about at the university level and this idea that science is suppressed in favor of commercial agenda? And it's all in who sponsors the study that shows the efficacy of whatever the drug is with the active ingredient.
Yeah. And not only that, if you're, say, an aspiring graduate student, what study even has a chance of getting funded? And what study would be career suicide if you took it up? What would make you look ridiculous? What would earn the ridicule of the people around you? Even if they'll ridicule you just to preserve their own image of being serious scientists, even if they secretly believe it. So the mechanisms for thought control in academia are they're complex, So, as for what do we do about it, I think that we need parallel institutions that exist outside of the existing academic institutions, because I think that they're almost hopeless right now.
So let's expand on that for a moment, because I find this very intriguing. So what do you mean by parallel institutions?
Like alternative universities that are not worried about accreditation. They maybe have independent.
So they're off the grid.
Yep.
Basically.
Off the grid. They're, maybe they have funding by philanthropists who heretofore have funded centers.
Uh-oh. We lost you again.
I keep getting phone calls, actually, is what's happening.
That's what's
Yeah.
happening. Okay.
So these, parallel institutions will investigate topics that are verboten in mainstream academia. They might have,
Verboten just means the German word for forbidden.
yeah, right. They're, for example, anti-gravity devices, or some of these far out agricultural technologies where you have like rows of magnets, and the plants grow faster, or biological transmutation of elements. There's a whole scientific lineage going back to the 19th century that apparently demonstrates that organisms can perform nuclear chemistry, and thereby also possibly generate energy, cold fusion, for example. Like all that kind of stuff, you cannot get funding for that. If you even propose that, you're going to torpedo your career in mainstream academia. So we need alternative institutions. And I think that the whole academic enterprise right now, it's just falling apart. The institutions are so top heavy, they're ridiculously expensive in this country. And most of the students don't even really want to be there. They're only going there because they think it's their ticket to a successful career, but they're not there to, driven by a thirst for knowledge. Traditionally, like, I don't know, probably get in trouble for saying this, but traditionally, maybe 3%. I mean, in ancient societies, only 3% of the people were literate. And I think probably about 3% of the population is suited to pursue the life of a scholar or a scientist. But the system was developed to train scholars and scientists. Originally, it was an apprentice system. A graduate student would apprentice to a professor. I mean, there's still vestiges of that in your advisor, your dissertation committee and so forth. But I think, about 3% of people are genuinely, like, they would go to college even if it didn't help their career, even if they weren't being told that that was their ticket to success. So the system where we're hurting 30 or 40% of the population through a watered down version of academic apprenticeship doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't, we have a huge deficit in this country now of workers in the trades, skilled workers, plumbers and electricians and welders and automotive mechanics, HVAC mechanics, nurses, all kinds of technicians. Like, these jobs have a much lower status than being a executive or a consultant.
True.
And we don't need more executives and consultants. We need people who can actually do things with their hands, because our infrastructure is falling apart and we can't even fill these jobs. So this need comes from an anti-materialism that has for a long time been seen as progress, going back thousands of years, where the highest status was the king and the priest, whose feet were not allowed to touch the earth. And we have all these figures of speech about rising above and ascending, as if these are good things, as if this is progress.